Shalom, brothers and sisters. So, I want to start just quickly by saying I'm still getting the odd comment from time to time, turn up your volume, can't hear you. There's nothing more I can do from my side. I'm a pastor, not a sound technician and a podcasting specialist and all those things. So, I'm sure there's things I'm unable to do. But I do have a proper microphone now. I've checked the sound. Everything on my side is checking out perfectly, including the replay and including on YouTube after uploaded. So I can't see any faults with the volume on the videos. Please check your side if you do have a problem, or put on closed captions, which will pop up and give you all the words. That is the only solution I've got for you. There is really no problem with the volume. So again, I have tried, but I can't even comment to those comments anymore because I have no more that I can say about it. So I hope that gives a bit of clarity. And then crazy news in the world. Let's dive into it for the last time this week, and it never stops, but it's always hilarious and fun. We've got the big, and there's a lot going on. We've got the big meeting between Trump and Putin today that's taking place. Trump has said, Putin is not gonna mess around with me. From where I'm sitting, Putin's been messing around with Donald since he got back into power, because Donald was gonna wrap up the Ukraine war within the first few minutes. We're still waiting. And it's been downhill ever since. And every promise and discussion and everything, all Putin has been doing is mess around with Donald. So now Trump's saying Putin is not going to mess around with me. The other problem going into this meeting for today for me is, in a pre-aired segment, he's already threatened Russia again. If they don't make a deal, then it's going to be really bad for them. We should know by now Russia does not take well to threats at all. So the meeting's off to a bad start before they even start, my opinion. Donald Trump insisted Vladimir Putin is not going to mess around with me on the eve of the Crunch Summit. The eyes of the world will be on Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson in Anchorage, Alaska, where the two men are due to meet at 8:30 p.m. UK time on Friday. It'll be the first time any major Western leader, aside from Putin's friend Viktor Orban, that is a dig at Orban from the Western media by calling him Putin's friend, just FYI, has met with the dictator, again, since the illegal full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. From the Oval Office on Thursday night, the US president said he would be able to know if the meeting is likely to prove productive within the first few minutes. I can't disagree with that. That is probably what would happen. And then the other thing you need to take into account here seriously is where we're getting our news from. Now, we are using Western media here. So I want to just show you, there's a comparative article here that also came out. Russia breaks through Ukrainian front line as Putin dispatches 110,000 troops days before the Trump summit. Now, that's a clever move, because he's doing this just before he agrees to anything at the summit. He's getting as much in as he can just before he might make a decision to stop. So that's the case here. But now listen to how the media writes this article. Vladimir Putin's forces have brutally broken through Ukraine's front lines days before a showdown with Trump. Not a meeting or a negotiation or talks about ending the war, a showdown, like two people with guns getting ready to say, draw. You're setting the stage already like that. Savage Russian troops made a sudden thrust in a two-pronged attack as Ukraine's general staff revealed the raging despot has massed at least 110,000 on the front line in the Donetsk region. Savage Russian troops. No, they're Russian troops. They're following their orders from their military and they are moving to take ground. They are not savage Russian troops. The Russian media would say savage Ukrainian troops that they're fighting. You get how it's tainted by the media. So, and then the raging despot, Putin. Whereas Russian media could say similar derogatory things about the Western leaders. The terrifying development could give warmongering Putin an upper hand when he meets Donald for the crunch talks on Friday. Mad Vlad. Can we just write the article in English and say Putin might even leverage the move as a bargaining chip to increase pressure on Kiev to give up land? No, because it sounds better to say Mad Vlad. His bloodthirsty forces. Russian troops have reportedly advanced 10 kilometers north in two prongs in recent days as part of their attempt to capture the entire Donetsk region, which is what they've been trying to do all along. I'm not saying Russia's right, Ukraine's wrong. I'm not saying Ukraine's right, Russia's wrong. And this is a whole different conversation to have and looking at it in depth. And there's a lot of information people actually don't want. But what I am saying is both sides have got forces on the ground receiving orders from their commanders, and they are moving to achieve those objectives. This is a war, even though they call it a special military operation. And that does not necessarily make them bloodthirsty and terrifying and savage and monstrous. They're soldiers fighting in a war until we have definitive proof that can be proven independently away from media that is skewed towards one or the other side of horrifying things being done. Then we can't use those kind of words in the descriptions, because there is proof of that happening on the Ukrainian side and the Russian side, but not independent proof that we can absolutely say this is what's happening unless we go and speak to someone on the ground in that situation. So again, the media, you got to take with a pinch of salt. You got to read around their bias and those things when you get the information, and then balance it against other stories to make sure you've got the right story at the end of the day. Pray for Ukraine, for the civilians, people on the ground. Pray for Russia, for the civilians and the people on the ground. Pray for more on both sides to receive a saving grace knowledge of Jesus Christ. This is our job. Viktor Orban. Brussels is a war project and warns that Europe is marching to World War III. The man is not wrong. The West has lost its instinct for self-defense when it severed the link between Christianity and the nation. I like him more and more with comments like this. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban warned Saturday that the world is increasingly likely sliding into the Third World War, accusing the European Union of becoming a war project and pledging to keep Hungary out of foreign conflicts. Then locally, we had some interesting developments here. Oh my word. It sometimes is just a banana republic. Iran and South Africa deepen military strategic partnership to counter global arrogance. Iran and South Africa held high-level military talks this week as both nations seek to deepen cooperation and strengthen their partnership against global arrogance and aggressive colonial approaches. On Tuesday, Iranian Major General Amir Hatami, Chief of Staff of Iran's army, met with General Rudzani Mapwania, the visiting chief of the South African National Defence Force in Tehran. During a joint press conference, Hatami said that both countries share a strong commitment to opposing colonialism and global arrogance, with South Africa playing a significant role in Iran's foreign policy priorities, i.e. taking Israel to court and making Israel look bad the whole time publicly. The Islamic Republic and South Africa have always supported each other and oppressed nations. The Iranian commander said, according to the state-run media, they emphasized their shared mission must continue until restoration of an international order, New World Order, based on justice and human dignity. It's hilarious when someone like Iran says stuff like this. And to someone like South Africa. Hatami emphasized the strong political alignment between Tehran and Pretoria, saying it has granted South Africa a special position in their broader strategy in Africa. He expressed hope that this partnership and their shared military capabilities would lead to tangible joint projects. Mapwanya called for deeper ties between the two nations, especially in defense cooperation, affirming that the Republic of South Africa and the Islamic Republic of Iran have got common goals. Then there was immediate fallout from the panicking politicians that don't really know what they're doing half the time besides stealing all of the funding they can find. General Mapwanya faces backlash for controversial Iran visit. South African National Defence Force Chief General Mapwanya is facing scrutiny following his recent trip to Iran, with questions being raised about his adherence to established foreign policy protocols. During his visit to Tehran, the general reportedly expressed complete political solidarity with the nation, which we just read. His controversial remarks have emerged amidst existing tension in South Africa's relationship with key democratic allies, particularly the United States and Donald Trump. The situation is further complicated by the US having implemented a 30% tariff on South African goods, citing concerns about unfair practices. Mapwanya's comments have been disavowed by both the Department of International Relations and Cooperation, DIRCO, and the Department of Defense and Military Veterans. They assert that the President, with DIRCO's assistance, is responsible for implementing South Africa's foreign policy. So a little bit of upheaval there, because the general said exactly the truth of what the leadership feel publicly, when we're publicly trying to hide what we really think as a government, because we're trying to appease America and get out from under the tariffs and all the fallout from what our leadership has accomplished recently on the global stage. So interesting. The other thing people don't talk about, and I'm not going to get into it largely, but another reason Iran really feels close to us and really with their plans for Africa is that the Muslim groups in South Africa are gaining massive power in the political realm and working their way up really fast. And if their goals are achieved, this country will be subsumed by Islam politically and in power circles, like Iran is struggling now under that exact situation. So obviously, pray against that and pray for South Africa that that does not come to pass anytime soon. Netanyahu, Israel is ready to solve Iran's water shortages. In a video message to the Iranian people, he blamed the tyrants in Tehran for the current crisis, not the USA and himself for stealing clouds by gunpoint. The thirst for water in Iran is only matched by the thirst for freedom, the Premier said in a video address to the Iranian people that he published on Tuesday. Now, Israel has offered help before to countries that are anti-Israel with earthquake relief, and they were rebuffed at that time, with water relief, and they've been rebuffed before in the past. They would rather suffer than have Israel, with their advanced technology and proven abilities, come and rescue or help the situation to ease the suffering of civilians. That's how deep the hatred against Israel runs. And people don't realize that's how bad that hatred actually is. Israel is in talks with South Sudan about Gazan resettlement plans. The deal between South Sudan and Israel could help the two countries build even closer ties. They want to move the Palestinians from the Gaza Strip to the East African country. 6 people familiar with the discussions have confirmed this on Tuesday night. The deal between South Sudan and Israel could help the two countries build closer ties, and South Sudanese officials briefed Joe Slavic on the talks, who is a founder of a US lobbying firm that works with the African nation, and then added that an Israeli delegation plans on visiting the country to set up camps for Palestinians who wish to evacuate to that country. This is the same Sudan that we just spoke about yesterday or the day before, that's burned down 167 churches, and both sides in the civil war conflict are attacking and killing Christians. Don't forget that. Interesting. All right? Worth noting and remembering when you read articles like this. It's not, hey, well done Sudan, doing a great job working with Israel. No. Still killing Christians every opportunity that you get and working against them on many ways. You just need to go read the Open Doors report that's freely available online on South Sudan and where they rank in the hierarchy of persecution against Christians. Netanyahu said, and this was hilarious, he backs Greater Israel, drawing outrage from Arab states and because of the fear they feel. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu unleashed a fresh controversy and anger amongst Arab countries by suggesting a huge land expanse of Israel's borders in an interview he gave to I-24 News. In the published interview, he said he is on a historic and spiritual mission and expressed strong attachment to the vision of a greater Israel, which is a long-time reference to Israel encompassing parts of Jordan, Egypt, and Syria, along with Judea, Samaria, and the Gaza Strip, and down into Egypt too. It's basically the biblical land given to them by God. It comes on the heels of hardline Israeli officials and groups loudly proclaiming that Israeli forces will be in Damascus soon. Interesting, hey? Proclamation against Damascus, Isaiah 17. This is all based on biblical concepts of what God promised the Jews thousands of years ago. The interview presented Netanyahu with an amulet featuring what he described as a map of the promised land, the image symbolically depicting the greatly expanded vision of Israel's future, a future the enemy can't stop whether he likes it or not. Netanyahu, when asked if he feels a connection with the concept, said, very much. Jordan's foreign ministry highlighted the Greater Israel remarks and commented it constitutes, listen to the wording now, a dangerous and provocative escalation, a threat to the sovereignty of states and a violation of international law and the United Nations Charter. The ministry further emphasized the need for the international community to act immediately to stop all provocative Israeli actions and statements that threaten the region's stability and international, wait for it, peace and security. Then sudden destruction shall come upon them. Boom! That's just glorious how close we are. Sometimes I get excited too much, sorry. Then moving away from Israel, a new report has revealed that over 7,000 Christians have been killed in Nigeria so far in 2025. Since the beginning of this year, January, to now, where we're sitting in August, 7,000 plus of our brothers and sisters, our family, have been slaughtered, raped, murdered, churches burnt down, suffered for the testimony of the gospel of Jesus Christ, and are now with him by the throne. 7,000 plus. The brutal massacre of 7,087 plus Christians and abduction of another 7,800 translates to an average of 30 Christian deaths per day and more than one per hour just in Nigeria. Then we're not even touching on China, North Korea, Iran, all these other places, and the horrifying things happening to Christians there. An estimated 35 Christians are calculated to have been abducted daily and roughly 2 others per hours in the said past 220 days of 2025. While some international observers say what's happening to Christian communities in the Middle Belt states meet the standard for religious persecution and genocide, the Nigerian government contends that the violence is not religious and emanates from decades-old farmer-herder clashes. It's fine, it's just Christians. It's not Jews, so we're not going to use the genocide claim, even though that is what it is. And it's okay if they slaughter them. It's just a decades-old herder-farmer issue. So don't stress. We're cool. They can wipe them out. And the world won't bat an eyelid. The United Nations won't convene an emergency council meeting. Everyone won't freak out. There won't be protests at American universities. People won't march in the streets and block bridges, paint paintings and storm military bases and demand action from Donald Duck. Nobody will do nothing because it's just Christians. And the world right now feels they could use less of them than more, while they coddle up and get closer to Islam that's going to eat them when they least expect it. And we already see that happening. Christian woman investigated by police for silent prayer despite her legal victory over previous arrests for the same thing. So again, a Christian woman is under investigation by police for praying silently near an abortion clinic months after receiving a financial settlement over previous wrongful arrests for the same activity. Police confirmed the inquiry is ongoing. Officers have attended the location where she prays and on regular occasions have approached her to ask if she is praying. This is the third time police have responded to her silent prayer. Despite the outcome, Vaughan Spruce has continued to pray near the facility on a weekly basis, and she said her actions have remained the same for 20 years, consisting of standing silently and praying. Police have been observed posting 2 officers to monitor her as she prays. There's so much going wrong in the UK at the moment. There's so much violence. There's gangs, there's drugs, there's Islam chaos going on. There's so much with the immigrants. There's so many places. The police are desperately needed. But let's assign 2 officers to watch this little lady pray silently in front of the abortion clinic. And you thought prayer wasn't powerful. You thought prayer is just you talking and no one talking back. You thought prayer doesn't make a difference. There's your proof that Satan, Lucifer, he believes in the power of prayer. He can see the power of prayer in action by this one woman standing silently and talking to God in front of that abortion clinic. And he is reacting to the situation. So don't let anyone ever tell you prayer is not powerful and prayer is not important. You should be praying as much as possible. Talk to God. The devil hates it. He might assign some officers to watch you. The Guardian newspaper scolds Christians for illegally evangelizing isolated people groups. This is what we were told to do by God himself, and this is what the church has been doing since the beginning, right up until now, and this is what we do. This is the Great Commission. There ain't no stopping us. Recently, the Guardian newspaper out of the UK published an expose piece called Missionaries Using Secret Audio Devices to Evangelize Brazil's Isolated People. Solar-powered units reciting biblical passages have appeared in the Javari Valley despite strict laws protecting indigenous groups. The solar-powered radio devices have long been used as a creative means of reaching the unreached with the gospel. Christian ministries load Bible passages, sermons, or gospel presentations in local and trade languages onto the devices, drop them for the indigenous to find. When missionaries are unable to physically go there and reach a people, this is a wonderful way to expose the people to the gospel. but the world is not impressed. The article quoted a Brazilian official as saying it's a stealthy, concealed, under-the-radar conversion. The method has become sophisticated and difficult, almost impossible to combat, because they're actively admitting that they're combating God and the gospel and the message that we are commanded to share with all nations. You don't get to tell me I'm not allowed to speak to this nation. God supersedes your authority. Matthew 28:18-20 says, all authority, all, in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that I have commanded you, and behold, I am with you always to the end of the age. You ain't scaring us by saying we can't speak to someone or we can't reach an unreached group. We gonna reach them no matter what it takes, and the Lord will make a way. And we're quite happy to deal with the consequences. Lock us up and we'll start a prison ministry. We're kind of like a virus. We're going to get that gospel out there, and the Holy Spirit's empowering us. So there's that. Then just a personal plea from me that I saw today again on Telegram. Christian Messianic Jew was talking about the Tucker Carlson interview, blah, blah, blah. And he's chatting about that. And his wrap-up comment upset me. Me personally, this is a Sholto thing, but I'm going to share it with you so you can get a glimpse of how this weird brain works. And he said, if Jesus was alive today, where would he feel safest? In a Palestinian state or in Israel? I've got a problem with that statement immediately, and you've just disqualified your entire video for me that you made before that because of that one statement. Jesus is alive today. Not if Jesus was alive today. You're talking about as if he was a historic figure that died and he's dead and in his grave and we can go find his bones. Jesus is alive today. And you might say, oh, but it was just a slip of his tongue. You don't slip of your tongue with Jesus not being alive today. Jesus is more alive to me than anybody else. Anyway, Jesus is alive today. And he wouldn't care about which state or border or line you drew, because he was not afraid. Is not afraid. He is alive today and forevermore. That is the core principle of our faith, that he conquered death. You can't say if Jesus was alive today. God bless. Keep looking up. Shalom.